I just realised, what episode is this going to be?
3.
We're very organised. Right, here we go. Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Auntie Em podcast, Surviving Jobs.
Hello!
Hey, how are you doing?
Hi, Em. I'm great, thanks, Em. I'm very excited today. We've got a very special guest who I'm thrilled to have.
An extra special guest. Would you like to introduce our guest, please?
Can I have a drum roll, please? It's my sister! It's my sister, Genevieve Leopold, who I'm immensely proud of, who is a beautiful, fine artist. And she's agreed to come on the show and talk about her career journey and the highs, the lows, and how she got there. Hi, Jen. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Very welcome. It's very beautiful to have two lovely ladies. You look very different, but also very similar.
Yeah, we've heard that a lot.
Thanks.
Mannerisms are very similar,
yeah.
I think.
Jen is an independent artist who has worked her way up to being sort of an international famous lady, aren't you? I mean, what kind of style is your painting?
So I'm an oil painter predominantly, and my style, I always sort of refer to it as organic abstraction. It's very based in plant forms and root forms and but then abstracted forms.
Yeah.
Well,
if I can explain, obviously we'll be posting links to Jen's art, and she's got some amazing videos sort of where she's showing the process. You sort of use this beautiful sort of thick brushes, and it's like your paintings are the same, but they're all completely different. It's that very individual style you've got. It's like a swirl with the brush, which I find so sort of hypnotic when I'm watching you do it. And it's these beautiful, they're like, yeah, it's totally abstract, but there's so much sort of depth and story in your paintings.
Yeah, it's abstract work, but you can definitely kind of, it feels like paintings of something, or you can see kind of recognizable forms sometimes in the work. I was showing it to some colleagues actually yesterday, and they were blown away, and they were so excited. They were looking for like half an hour on my phone at your work and saying like that they'd never seen anything like it before, and it was so different. So there's some feedback for you, Jen.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
So tell us about your journey. What were you doing? Like, were you doing a normal job and you just decided like, okay, I want to do this full time, or was this sort of something that's always been in the background?
I think it's always been there, like the desire to do it. But I kind of I started to gradually strip away the other bits of my work life to make space for painting over time. But I've always kind of said, it's always been a bit of a thing that I never committed to any other career. So like I never skilled up into anything else. It was because in my mind, I think I always wanted to paint. I always wanted to be an artist. So it's almost like through a process of avoidance, I didn't allow anything to take over any other career.
Yeah, like negative space.
Yeah, basically, in a way. Yeah.
Or that thing that they say about sculptures, where you're not making a sculpture, you're taking away the other bits of clay.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good analogy, actually.
Yeah. So that's quite interesting, because it's kind of like, it's like an unconscious part of your brain that's telling you what, saying you need to be a painter. So don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long ago was that? When was the last?
Yeah, I mean, so I've been painting full time and making a living from it, probably like making an actual living from it for the last 4 years.
Okay.
Doing it enough that it was my main source of income probably for the last 8 years.
Yeah.
And then before that, it was a kind of tailored build up to it for probably again another 8 to 10 years. I'm not a quick person when it comes to making decisions.
And just for the audience to clarify, Jen's 18 months older than me, and you know how old I am, so we're midlifers.
We are midlifers.
But they say it's like it takes 10 years to become an overnight success.
Yeah, and I think that's something to really, really recognise when it comes to making a choice to go into a creative career, because there are points where things start to snowball and it feels suddenly very rapid and amazing and exciting, and then you remember, oh, actually, yeah, I've been building on this, I'm building up to this. But there really is definitely a kind of tipping point, or has been for me, where it's
Can you?
Yeah.
What's your tipping point? What's happened?
I would say probably the tipping point for me came about 3 years ago, really, where I started to get a lot of bigger projects and requests, and I really found my voice in my work at the same time. So I started to trust the pieces that I was making in a way more than I had before, and really dig into my own language as an artist. And it was then that actually other people started responding to it, and I felt I built, a confidence within my work that I think was affecting how other people saw it as well.
Yeah, it's almost like suddenly sort of saying, I can do this, I am good at this, and I'm going to and that added that element to your work that kind of pushed it to be sort of successful.
Yeah, that definitely. And also almost I'm doing this. I'm doing this now, and this is it for me. Like, not forever, but you know what I mean. I'm an artist, and I'm going to be an artist, and I'm going to take that seriously and playfully.
Yeah. And were you ever scared? Were you ever like, oh my God, maybe I should, was there a moment where you were really sort of doubting yourself or frightened about taking that step?
Oh, yes, there definitely was. That was probably about 5 years ago. But and I think there's always doubt, right? I think this is one of the things that's really interesting about choosing a creative career, or choosing a career that's comes from your heart, is that you start to realize after time that doubt is always going to be there. Every time you level up, every time you do something a bit different or push a bit harder, that doubt's going to push back in to your space in a different way. And you learn that it's part of the process. You almost learn to have to accept that doubt's going to be there. Yeah. And kind of love it, because it's like, oh yeah, this is the next stage.
So almost. Yeah. You feel the doubt, and it's a signal that you're doing the right thing. Like if something scares you, run towards it.
Yeah, I think something like that. Yeah, it's definitely something like that. It's about a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also, like, when I do plays, it's only Amdram, but I get nervous. But it wouldn't be fun if I didn't get nervous anymore.
Yeah,
and that's kind of part of it. Is like, you feel nervous, then you go, no, but I did do it, and it's like, feel the fear, do it anyway, and it's almost like a payoff. And sometimes I can feel overwhelmed and I'll walk away from it, which I've done many times. But you've obviously felt that fear and gone, no, I can do this.
Yeah, there've been individual projects where it's been where I've pushed myself. And I've had that feeling of like, oh my God, I can't do this. It's too much. It's too big. It's literally too big on some cases.
When did you sell like your first painting? Can you remember the first painting that you sold?
Yeah, I can remember the first painting I sold to a stranger.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that's the kind of, because I don't think anyone should ever underestimate the fact that you are going to sell to friends and family initially. That's just the way it goes, and it doesn't undermine you as an artist. Yeah,
even if it's rubbish.
Someone will. Somebody loves you will always buy one.
I've got some early Genevieve Leovolds.
Juvenilia,
they're going to be worth a load of money, Pete.
Yeah.
Yeah, only when she's dead, so she better go first.
So when did you?
No, that's not true. It's going to be in your lifetime.
So Jen,
Yeah.
so when did you? Sorry, let's go back. So when did you first sell to a stranger?
Okay, so the first painting I sold to a stranger was in a show in Bristol, and it was in 2000 and I want to say 6.
Okay,
It might have been 2007. Yeah.
but quite a while back then. And how does that feel when you like somebody? Oh, I'm going to buy this
Oh my God.
painting.
I know the faces. I can see the faces of this couple who bought it, and I was so excited. It was mind-blowingly exciting to sell to complete
Wow.
strangers. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just must have been such a feeling of achievement of like it's not like you said, not just my mum who's like, oh, you're very good. It's actual other people are going, oh, this is an amazing painting.
Yeah, and grown-ups. This was a grown-up couple. It was funny. It was and I think the thing is with doing this or making a choice to do a career where you're putting yourself on the line, whether it is acting or when you do something like that where you put yourself on the line, the rewards are so huge and really powerful, and they really stay with you.
Yeah. But also the pitfalls as well can be quite huge as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fear that I've had, with doing sometimes creative things, because you do put your heart and soul in it. So when it goes great, it's amazing. And then when it falls flat, it really does fall flat. And it's quite hard to pick yourself up. But,
and you hold on to these things, the painful things or the fearful things.
Can you tell us about a time when it's gone wrong?
Yeah. So when I first moved to Belgrade to pursue, so my full-time career as an artist happened about 8 years ago when I quit my job in the UK and I moved with my husband to Serbia. And it was, for me, I'd saved up a bit of money. It was that real classic thing of, right, I'm going to go, we're going to do 6 months. I'm going to just see what I can do as an artist and see what happens.
Yeah.
And initially, one of his colleagues commissioned a painting from me, but it was in my older style, this figurative style, and I just didn't want to do it. And
right.
I didn't know how to say that I didn't want to do it. So I took a deposit for it, which is quite standard as a commission. I would normally, but I took a 50% deposit and I made a painting and she hated it and I hated it. And neither of us really knew what to do. And in the end, it just ended up being this horrible.
I hate this.
Yeah, she didn't use that word, but she did say, this is not what I want. And I was like, well, it's not what I want to do either. So I'm not doing you another one because it's not like a, what's the word? I've made it. So you can either take it.
You're not happy with it.
Yeah, I've done the work. I've done as much work as I want to do. Yeah. But it was horrible because I felt quite awkward about it, and then I didn't really know, how to handle it. And then,
are you still friends?
No, we weren't friends anyway. She was just someone who knew my husband briefly.
Well,
okay, she wasn't his friend. I thought,
but she never took the painting.
Ruined his relationship.
No, she just didn't take the painting. I kept the deposit. She didn't pay me the balance. It was all a bit weird and awkward. Yeah, it was a bit awkward.
Wow.
So did you just ghost one another?
A bit, yeah. Because it's quite intimate. That commissioning process is quite intimate. When it goes wrong, it's a bit like, oh, okay, like a bad date.
It is that thing where somebody's paid you to do something like in advance, and you think, am I doing what is worth what they're paying? Do you know what I mean? Like, is this good enough for what they're going to be paying me?
Yeah. Also, I charged less than I would normally, so there was a whole thing of the value, this worth thing, which which is an interesting area to talk about.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really, I felt like, well, I've done my best for you, and if my best is not good enough, I haven't charged you enough, so I'm just going to keep the deposit, and I'm just going to pretend this didn't happen.
Because the idea of an artist and a business person are kind of sort of opposite ends, aren't they?
Yeah.
But you need to be both. So tell us a bit about that, Jen.
Okay, so that is, I think, quite an it's a very 21st century feeling way of being an artist, in a way, because of the internet making it us able to be independent and not gallery tied. Yeah, so the business stuff is a balance. You have to, in some ways it's quite nice to do administrative tasks as a kind of counterpart to the creative stuff. It's also, it can just eat all your time, as I'm sure you know. When you are running a podcast or doing anything, you're doing content creation, you're working out what your books are, you're kind of thinking about how it's going to grow, where it's going to grow, what you want to be, how you want to be in the world. And yeah, so the business stuff is quite cool and quite interesting. And it's, I suppose, taken me, in terms of like the being able to live off my art, I can now live and also live in the UK from my art. So I was living in Serbia. Yay! But that, again, I think that took quite a while. So
I mean, that's what I mean. It's a slow process. I mean, even just your time. That's what people don't realise, is the time that it takes to do something. It's not, the necessary materials, but it's the time that you spend doing it. And I think that's what a lot of artists say. You read these things like, someone commissioned me to make this, and I said, well, it's going to take me 100 hours, whatever it is. And, so, I mean, how do you work out the cost of a painting?
Okay, so I usually price per linear inch. So it's a fairly simple, basic way of dividing the canvas and working out what from that, like my material cost, my time cost.
Of course, that makes perfect sense.
I'm gonna sound like an idiot, but what's a linear inch as opposed to a square inch?
It just means you add up. I would add up the total area, but then I would work based on like the biggest length of the canvas. But it would kind of be per square inch, but then into a linear, because otherwise it could get mental. Because obviously, if I'm working on a 150 by 150 canvas, it's quite huge. So it would be a sudden massive leap from that, when it wouldn't be actually wouldn't look, that's not a word, is it? It wouldn't be so different in terms of the size of the canvas.
I don't understand. I still don't understand.
Oh, you do you need to understand this particular thing?
No, right, we're going to stay here and work it out until P understands. Just say yes,
yeah. It's just easier to do per linear inch than it is to do per square inch.
Right.
I'm going to Google it.
Yeah, you can Google it. But
there'll be a YouTube video about it.
Yeah, there will be. It's quite a standard way of pricing for artists.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
And do you? And so P was sort of saying that there was a point where you weren't charging enough for your paintings, and what happened there in that sort of state of mind? How did you sort of overcome? No, my work is worth this much.
Well, it was partly by choice and partly by I got a commission, and somebody and I for the first time asked for what I believed the commission was worth, which was a lot more than I was used to asking, and the person just didn't bat an eyelid. I mean, it was for a corporate project, but they didn't. Yeah, it was like, that's great immediately. And so I was like, okay, I can ask for what I'm actually worth in terms of the time and effort, and then the other thing that's really interesting is I also feel that I'm kind of beholden to my past collectors to increase the value of the pieces they've collected from me. So whenever I feel like undercutting or taking money off, I'm like, no, but this person's paid this much for it, so I'm never going to charge less than that, because this is the standard now,
investment.
right?
Yeah.
So I can only get more than that. Yeah, which is quite useful.
But
Yeah, because even if you're feeling self-doubt, you can't, because you owe it to other people, and it's always easier to do stuff for other people,
Yes.
right?
So it's a little mind trick
cool.
to get yourself recognizing your worth.
yeah,
A Jedi mind trick.
P, you're fired. Your puns are terrible.
Sorry.
So,
No, I like my job.
do you know what? You put me off. I was going back to ask the question. No, I remember what it is now. What can you just tell us a bit what it's like working? Because I mean, do you normally work quite extensively on your own?
Yes.
So what's that like? I mean, because I think I would go a bit mad.
I think it is one of those things with, if you're going to be an artist, you have to be okay with your own company. Especially if you're going to be a painter or a sculptor or something where you're working on your own for long hours, because that is most of what I do. Is I spend hours on my own with a painting, having conversations with it in my head and trying to find its voice outside of me, but also inside of me, and kind of, yeah. So I do spend a lot of time on my own. But then the flip side of it is the exhibitions, which are amazing, because I also love both. I'm quite an extroverted introvert.
Okay.
So I do love going out and being out there if I've got if it's the right space. So if it's an exhibition, I'm in an exhibition head state, and it's like I'm wearing the dress, I've got the mask, the kind of outfit that is that. And I love that side of it too. But yeah, a lot of, I say on my day-to-day work is a mixture of painting and admin most of the time.
But what have you done in terms when, because like we were talking about teaching in our first episode, and we were talking about how, you can have good and bad colleagues and good and bad managers. But one thing I would say, having always worked in a kind of very collegiate way with a lot of people, is that if I have a problem, somebody's going to help me. So what have you done, or like, how do you kind of create a community or problem solve with others when you're so isolated? What advice would you have for young artists or new artists?
That is a cool question. One of the first things I did when I knew I wanted to do this was I wrote to a bunch of artists who were selling well on Saatchi, which is one of the big art platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And I
just out of the blue, like cold calling.
Cold called them. I kind of looked at a bunch of artists whose work I really loved, and I looked at the ones that were selling really well, and I wrote to, I think, maybe 10 or 15 artists, and about 6 of them got back to me. And interestingly, 3 of them have probably become people who I consider to be colleagues in a way. Like we now share support for one another, and I know them through Instagram, and I've actually met one of them in person because she came for a show in London, and we met for a drink, and that was really nice. And another one I had a really lovely Zoom chat with, and we've stayed in touch, and I ask for her advice sometimes, and she's asked for mine over the years. So
do you want to plug them?
Yeah, I can. So the 3 that I'm thinking of, there's one called Heather Goodwind, who is an American artist, a surrealist abstract painter from Portland, Oregon, and her work is incredible. They're very biomorphic, a bit like Miro, I would say, would be the closest artist I could think to her work.
Yeah, there's
really
quite
beautiful.
a lot of crazy creative people living in Portland, isn't there?
Yes,
it's quite a hip town to be. That's what I imagine.
Yeah.
Right. We'll give links. Yeah, so there's Heather. Who else?
Heather. Nikki Hare is another one who does beautiful like word paintings. And then the other one is Maria Bach-Khan, who is an abstract painter as well, kind of botanical abstracts. And she's based in France. Yeah.
That's so amazing. So you just basically reached out and made some friends. You just networked.
Yeah, so my advice to young artists is speak to artists. they're not scary. Generally, they might be busy or distracted. They might take ages to get back to you, but like, honestly, just reach out, but have an idea of what you're actually asking. Don't just say, "Oh, I need. Can you help me?" Just think of some questions you've got about a specific area of your career, and then write to people. And it really worked for me. And then I've got a network of people on Instagram. Instagram's amazing for artists.
Yeah, and I think, what would you say, because I know, Jen, that you use a couple of platforms, you use Artfinder and Saatchi Art, don't you, to market your work and maybe take a bit of that social media work off you?
Yeah.
Is that like effective for you as an artist? Or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would really recommend, especially when you're starting out, getting involved with some of those bigger platforms, because they've got the whole, not critical mass, but you know what I mean, when someone's got more clout behind them. You pay for it because you pay commission for them, so they're, it's a very balanced relationship in terms of what you make good stuff to then for them to promote you, and if they promote you and you make good stuff, it'll sell. So I definitely
like any agency relationship kind of thing. All right, so we're getting towards the end.
Getting towards the end.
We're on half an hour. So can I ask Jenny her 3 top tips? Sorry, Jen. Can I ask Jen her 3 top tips? Sorry, it's because I'm a sister.
It is true.
Officially, it's Jen.
Everybody.
A free pass.
Officially, in the records.
Well, she saddled me with the nickname P as a teenager and all the wee connotations that come with it.
That's true. That's true. Let's not get into what we've saddled one another with over the years, Pete.
That's true. My eye!
Yeah, this is the thing, Jen. Every time we get into something, we're always like, now this is a whole other podcast right now. And then most of the time we end up talking about it anyway.
Hooray!
That's right. Patreon feed.
Yeah. All right, Jen. I want your top 3 tips for someone considering either transitioning to or a young person starting a career as a fine artist.
Okay.
3 top tips.
Oh my goodness. Okay, number 1, embrace uncertainty and don't take it personally.
Deep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be my number 1 thing. Like, uncertainty is part of the process. Embrace that. Number 2 would be ask more questions.
Ooh.
Like, ask questions,
just like you did.
Yes, because I'm not good at
like
it.
You did with your.
It is a good way to start. Yeah. And the third one would be paint or make as much as you possibly can, especially early on. Like, don't get stuck thinking that there's perfection somewhere there, because it'll just trip you up. So be prepared to embrace the beginner's mind all the time. Don't ever think you've got perfection. There's always going to be something new and better. And one piece of advice that I was given by another artist was always remember there's always going to be 10 people better than you, at least 10 people better than you. No matter what stage you're at in your career, they will be there. So
that kind of deals with perfectionism and also imposter syndrome.
A bit, yeah. Stay humble.
But it's good because it's like always gives you something to strive for. If you've got nothing to strive for anymore, what's the point?
Yeah, don't settle.
Yeah. Well,
I'm quite a toddler about things. Like, I'll throw my toys out of the pram if I'm not the best,
really,
and then give up.
I did not know that about you.
Shut up. Oh! Anyway, I think that's good advice.
Yeah, I actually think, and you know what? I think it applies to any job. I think that to ask for help and to be, and it is a journey. And I don't think that we should know what we're doing when we're 20 years old or 25 or even 40. it's okay to change and to take steps outside of your comfort zone, because
all right,
life doesn't end. You know, we're not suddenly 40 and then might as well go in a room and, you know, sit there until we menopause and die. Like, you know?
Yes. And especially women,
however tempting that is.
You know, like, don't ever write yourself off.
That.
No.
Yeah, don't write yourself off. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so embrace uncertainty, ask questions, and I forgot the third one.
The third one was stay humble. Like, embrace the beginner's mind. Always, like, don't settle, and remember that there's always going to be people better than you, basically.
Yeah.
And don't aim for perfection in your work. Just keep making.
Okay, so as we get to the end of our show, we've got some quick questions for you, Jen. Just some quick fire ones. Can you tell us, first of all, the best and the worst jobs you've ever had?
Oh, okay. The best job I ever had, apart from being an artist, was working in Ann Summers as a salesperson.
Nice.
That was good. The worst job I've ever had was, weirdly, also sales. I had 2 days trying to do cold calling for a course about how to get more phone calls by more clients by cold calling. And I was so bad that the guy on the phone was like, "Have you done this course?" And I was like, "No." He was like, "I can tell." And just hung up on me.
Oh my God. How did that end?
I just left. It was 2 days. I just couldn't. It was horrible.
Oh my God.
What about Burger King and Wetherspoons?
Oh, yeah, but I can handle that kind of work. Like, I can do graft, but like cold calling people to sell them something I knew nothing about.
That sounds like they suck. I don't know how people do that. But anyway, okay.
No,
so have you had any funny interview stories? Anything like interview fails or, you know, massive success?
I mean, I have had interview fails. I think I did one interview where I thought I'd really done really well. And then when I got the feedback, they were basically like, "Yeah, you were awful. We definitely wouldn't ever have employed you." I was just like, I came away from it feeling super confident. And
No.
What was the job?
It was interesting. It was when I was first in London. I'd left my job at Bristol Uni and I was a senior secretary, so I was supporting a team of researchers, and I was quite good at it, and I went for a job doing the exact same thing in a different uni in London, and so I was quite confident, and I thought I did the interview really well, but they just thought I came across as really arsey. I know.
I love that you were in there going, "Yeah, I'm winning this. Listen to me."
I know. They said I relied too much on the fact that I'd already done something at Bristol Uni, and I was like, okay. I don't remember that. Yeah, but then it was good. It was lucky.
Well, what are you supposed to do?
You're meant to bring your experience. Anyway, we should
Thanks, guys.
The Times.
They were wrong.
Right. So when you were little, what was your dream job that you wanted to have when you grew up?
Well, I wanted to be an artist.
Really?
Woo!
She made it, everyone. She made it.
Do what you love.
Purdy wants to be Prime Minister. Did you know that?
Yeah, she should have been.
Tell everyone. No, because then when I get elected, they're going to replay this bloody podcast, aren't they? Some journalist will dig it up and shame me.
I think everyone should be like Monty Python, where we all take it in turns to run the country for like a week.
I absolutely agree.
Oh, no, I so agree.
Yeah.
It should be like jury service.
There was actually a model of democracy.
It's my turn to be Prime Minister. Hang on, I'm just gonna, and you can make any law happen within like 24 hours.
Oh my God.
Oh,
right. Anyway, thank you so much, Jen, for coming on our podcast today. It's been an absolute delight, and it's been really inspiring. And it is your journey to like how you've exploded onto the art scene, and your art is absolutely beautiful. And we're going to share it with all our listeners and get it out. Hopefully, get it out there. Maybe new people can come and see it. So, thank you again for coming on.
Oh, thanks so much.
Yeah,
it's been a real pleasure.
You're very welcome. And that's it. And so we're going to say goodbye now. So it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me. And goodbye from Jen.
Bye. Bye.
like interrupted so much today. I'm on form.
I like it when you interrupt, though. It adds an organic feeling. Because you were like,
Really?
if we're on video, then I can see what you're doing and I won't interrupt so much. But we still do.
And it was a lie.
We still do.
That's really funny. Oh, come on,